Prototype 2 picks up 14 months after the events of Prototype 1. It's what happens after Alex Mercer, or the facsimile of Alex Mercer, takes the nuke offshore, and the nuke, what happens to New York. And basically New York splintered into 3 zones. We can talk more about those zones later. But basically it's then the path of a new protagonist, Sergeant James Heller, on his goal to go after Alex Mercer because he blames Alex Mercer for the death of his family and the destruction of his city. So what we're showing at PAX, we're excited to be showing a brand new portion of the world. It's our yellow zone. Previously, a lot of the viewers and fans have only seen the green zone, which is kind of the safer area of NYZ, New York Zero. And the yellow zone is really, it's where Gentek's labs are. It's where they perform a lot of human experiments. It's where there's an overcrowding because it's people trying to escape the red zone. It's a series of shanty towns. It's overcrowded. It's just generally not the best place to live. We'll also be showing some new abilities, the Heller's new abilities, really showcasing our new ability to hot swap between powers, so the player will actually be able to engage and equip 2 different powers, and without ever bringing up the power wheel, they'll actually be able to choose between the 2 powers, which also makes for a lot of great combinations. Really excited about that. The new features, just really reinforcing kind of where we've gone further with the hunting gameplay that we had shown previously in the green zone, kind of how that works into a new awareness system, how Heller's really bringing more believability and life to the world. How do you make sure Heller feels different than Alex Mercer? And really at the core, Prototype is about the ultimate power fantasy, so you can't rob that experience as you try and bring on a new character to life. But one of the things that we really wanted to separate Heller from Mercer, in the first game, Alex Mercer was he was apathetic or bummed by his powers, and he was a very confused player, right? He would be tearing people up in the street, and then he'd go visit his sister, and he'd be all very caring. It was very disjointed and very disconnecting. So those are the things we really want to fix with James Heller. James Heller is an ex-soldier. He's a man who's more efficient with his fighting skills. He's more engaged to use his powers that he's been gifted to take on Alex Mercer to clean up his city. So he's a character who's very much knows what he's after and knows how to achieve it, whereas Mercer struggled with those things. So that's how Heller will be different from a narrative standpoint. From a gameplay standpoint, obviously he's got some new abilities and new skills that kind of one-up what Alex could do. But the move store from Prototype 1 is now gone. We're bringing much more customization to the player character, to your James Heller versus somebody else's James Heller, by an upgrade system that allows for you to spend skill points, kind of like a very RPG light. It's very RPG light. But beyond that, there's also this structure of mutations, and basically by the player playing the open world missions and experiencing the open world missions, they'll be rewarded for doing it instead of just grinding through it. We want them to do it because they're enjoying it and because there's a reward for doing it. So the mutations, very much like a perk, allows for finer tune customization. So there will be locomotion based mutations, there'll be offensive or defensive mutations. So depending on how you like to play, you can spend your points or your mutation or go after targets that will afford you a mutation that better define your prototype versus somebody else's prototype. We're still making sure the mutation system is delivering everything we want, but at this point, the way the mutation system works is by going to a blacknet truck in the world, the player will be able to see what category of mutation they're going after. So for say that you want to go after locomotion only mutations, you'll know that by going and interfacing with the blacknet truck and going, okay, well, you know what, that's an offensive mutation. I'm going to go after a locomotion mutation. So you go after a different blacknet truck, and the player will know how that information is communicated. We're still, like I said, as we're not done, we're still deciding if that's something that the player has to see easily on the map, or if that's something they have to dig into a sub-menu. Again, that will be revealed through player testing. In terms of how those mutations work, we've actually shifted away from having the player have to choose as a choice between this or that, and we've actually moved to an additive mutation system, so your mutations will actually combine on each other. There's still a lot to see on Prototype. Again, the game doesn't ship until April of 2012. There's a ton of new stuff that's still coming online we're not ready to reveal. I mean, there's still the red zone, for example, that nobody's really seen what that looks like in the game outside of very early or outside of what's been in trailers. So we're excited for people to see what comes in the red zone. But again, beyond that, there's still more toys and powers to come Beyond that, I'm not really ready to comment yet. As far as things that we're showing off with this new demo, one of the things we're really excited about is the ability to put people or things down. In Prototype 1, if you pick something up or picked a person up, there pretty much was no choice other than the death of that person. And that meant that a lot of that player choice was taken away from the players. We really want to make sure that the player gets to choose. You know, we had a lot of players that didn't mind picking up and throwing a Blackwatch guy, but didn't want to pick up a pedestrian. So now you'll actually have that choice, which is great. It also helps with the alert system of Prototype. For fans that are familiar with the alert system, you know, if you picked up a crate, that meant you went into alert even if you didn't mean to. For fans that don't know Prototype, you know, it meant that sometimes you caused all hell to break loose when you didn't want all hell to break loose. Beyond that, again, we've shown some of the new bear finishers. We're really excited about the ability to uppercut a helicopter. There's also the bear finisher of tearing off a turret on an APC or a tank and beating it with it. The ability to use your shield as a tactical ability. Previously we had shown and talked about the tactical dodge and putting a lot more pace of combat back in the player's hands. We're really excited that we're carrying that further, getting really that combat tuning dialed in. So utilizing the shield is not just a defensive ability, but also an offensive ability, being able to shoot the missile back or deflect the missile back at the guy who shot it at you or other targets. So just a lot of details that we're really working on that we're really excited about that we believe is going to make the game great. And in terms of the pace of combat, you know, again, we're really spending the time to dial that in. You know, Prototype 1 suffered from combat and gameplay that kind of skyrocketed to crazy difficult, and that meant that it was very off-putting to a lot of people. You know, some people would pick it up, be beaten to heck by the enemies, some on-screen and some off-screen, and it became a very frustrating game. A lot of players became unmotivated to keep going on. We really feel like we're addressing that. You know, the player won't be attacked from off-screen. There's now targeting lasers, so the player will know when they're being targeted. They'll get an audible beat. They'll see a visual cue, so they'll know that, hey, you know what? It's your chance to get out of the way. We've added dismemberment. You know, dismemberment is a game changer, and it allows you to slow down enemy attacks. It allows you to deny enemies some of their bigger attacks. Just bringing a lot of those things, the tactical dodge, the shield. We just really want to make sure that the combat is tuned, it's balanced, it's more engaging for more players. One of our goals we set out at the very start of Prototype 2 was, you know, this concept of Prototype for the masses. You know, we didn't want to lose what was great about Prototype. We don't want to dumb it down to the point where the hardcore, like, what'd you do to my prototype? But at the same time, we want to make sure that player, you know, from start to right before hardcore doesn't get frustrated and wants to put down Prototype either. So we believe we're on track to achieve that. So Prototype 2 will be available worldwide release on April 24, 2012 for the Xbox 360, the Sony PlayStation 3, and there's a PC SKU as well.